My boyfriend left me for my mom. And 2 months later, they asked me to be their chief bridesmaid at the wedding. This is how it all began. When I first met him, I thought I had finally found real love. He wasn't just handsome, he was funny, charming, and he made me feel like the only girl in the world. Late night calls, endless texts, secret smiles. It all felt like magic. When he first held my hand, I was sure it was a promise, that I was his and he was mine. My friends warned me he was too smooth, too perfect, but I ignored them. I was blinded by love. I built my dreams around him, graduating together, building a future, maybe even a family one day. At home, I couldn't stop talking about him. My mom would listen quietly, sometimes teasing me about how much I blushed when his name came up. To me, it was harmless, motherly teasing. I had no idea she was listening with more than just curiosity. You see, my mom isn't like other moms. She's stunning. So much so that people often mistake us for sisters. She walks into a room and immediately draws every eye. I always admired her, but sometimes standing next to her made me feel invisible. Still, never in a million years did I think she'd steal the one person who made me feel seen. Then things started to change. His texts got shorter. He canceled plans. He became distant. I told myself not to panic, but my gut knew something was wrong. And then it happened, the moment that shattered me. I came home earlier than expected, and there they were, my mom and my boyfriend, sitting together, laughing like two teenagers in love. His hand brushed hers, and their eyes locked with a warmth I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. I froze. My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out every sound in the room. For a second, I wanted to believe it was innocent. But the way they looked at each other told me everything. I left before they could explain. Honestly, what explanation could there be? That night, I cried until my body felt empty. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was betrayal from both the man I loved and the woman I trusted most. And as if that wasn't cruel enough, 2 months later, they had the audacity to ask me to be their chief bridesmaid. My own mother, marrying my ex-boyfriend and expecting me to smile at their wedding. That was the day I knew. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was war. After that night, avoiding them became impossible. I dodged conversations, stayed late at school, even locked myself in my room when I heard their voices downstairs. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't outrun the truth. It was always there, waiting, like a shadow I couldn't shake. Eventually, my mom cornered me. She sat me down at the dining table where we used to share so many ordinary family meals. Except this time, nothing about it felt ordinary. She looked calm, almost too calm, as though she had already rehearsed the lines she was about to deliver. "Listen," she began, her tone soft but steady. "I know this hurts you, but I need you to understand. I didn't plan for this to happen. It just did. And I can't deny what I feel." I stared at her, speechless, my hands clenched so tightly under the table that my nails dug into my palms. She spoke about love, about finding happiness, about second chances. Her words hung in the air like smoke, suffocating me. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't sorry. She was justifying. And then there was him, sitting right beside her, like a loyal pet. He couldn't even look me in the eye. His gaze was glued to the table, his shoulders hunched, as though he could shrink into himself and disappear. Coward. That's the only word that echoed in my mind. When I finally found my voice, it came out cracked and raw. How could you do this to me? To your own daughter? For the first time, I saw a flicker of guilt cross her face, but it vanished quickly, replaced by that same calm mask. I didn't choose this to hurt you, but I can't ignore it either. I deserve to be happy too, happy. The words sliced through me. Her happiness, it seemed, was worth more than my trust, my dignity, my heart. I turned to him, hoping for, I don't even know what. An apology? Regret? Something. But all he said was, I didn't mean for it to happen. His voice was low, weak, trembling. And in that moment, I knew I had wasted every ounce of love on someone who couldn't even fight for me. Silence stretched between us, heavy and unbearable. And then my mom dropped the bomb that made me feel like the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. We're getting married, she said, her voice steady, and I want you to be my chief bridesmaid. I laughed, an ugly, broken laugh that scraped my throat. You want me to stand next to you while you marry my ex-boyfriend? She nodded, as if it was the most reasonable request in the world, as if I should swallow the betrayal, plaster on a smile, and clap when they exchanged vows. That was the moment it hit me with brutal clarity. My mother wasn't asking for my blessing. She was demanding my submission. This wasn't about love anymore. This was about power. I walked away from that table with my heart in shreds, but one thought burned brighter than the pain. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. The days after that dinner felt like living inside a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Every corner of the house reminded me of betrayal. The kitchen, where my mom used to give me advice while cooking, now felt poisoned. My bedroom, once my safe space, became a prison of tears. And worst of all, I couldn't escape the haunting image of them sitting side by side, like a couple, like we never existed. I tried to talk to my mom again. I wanted answers, reasons, anything that would make sense of this madness. But each time she brushed me off. You'll understand when you're older, she said, her voice calm but sharp, like a knife covered in honey. Older? I was old enough to know right from wrong, and what she was doing was wrong on every level. And him, my ex. He had the audacity to call me one night. His voice trembled as he said, I didn't plan for this. It just happened. I nearly laughed through my tears. It just happened? Falling in love with my mother wasn't something you accidentally do. He tried to convince me he still cared about me, that he never wanted to hurt me, but his words felt like pouring salt into an open wound. At school, whispers followed me everywhere. News travels fast, and soon everyone knew my boyfriend had left me for my mom. I could hear the giggles, the cruel jokes, the pitying stares. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was humiliated, betrayed at home, mocked outside. It felt like the walls were closing in. One afternoon, I locked myself in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. My eyes were swollen, my face pale. I barely recognized the girl in the mirror. Why me? I whispered. Why us? That's when the anger replaced the sadness. I realized I couldn't just sit and drown in their betrayal. If they wanted to make me the victim, I would rewrite the story. Because this wasn't just about losing a boyfriend. It wasn't just about losing trust in my mother. This was about reclaiming myself, my voice, and my dignity. And at that moment, I made a silent vow. I would not let their twisted love story break me, number. I would rise from it. This was no longer just pain. It was fuel.
That night, I couldn't sleep. My heart was heavy, knowing tomorrow I'd stand at the altar as her bridesmaid. The bridesmaid dress hung across the room, mocking me with every glance. I sat by the window, torn between rage and heartbreak. The silence of the night was broken only by my thoughts and the storm in my chest. The church was breathtaking, flowers draped over every arch, sunlight streaming through stained glass, soft music filling the air. Guests whispered and smiled, snapping pictures of what they thought was a fairy tale beginning. And me? I walked down the aisle wearing the bridesmaid dress my mother picked, my face painted with a smile that didn't belong to me. On the outside I looked calm, even proud. On the inside I was fire and thunder. I could feel eyes on me, whispers trailing behind like shadows. Some guests admired my composure, others noticed the stiffness in my steps. None of them knew the storm I carried. Then the ceremony began. My mother walked in, glowing like she'd won the world, and by her side, him, the man who once held my hand, who once promised me forever, now promising it to her. My throat tightened as I watched. His words, his vows were words I had once dreamed of hearing, and now they cut through me like knives. I clenched my fists. Every smile I forced felt like a betrayal to myself. Then the priest turned to me. And now, he said, the chief bridesmaid will speak. For a moment I froze. My heart raced so hard I thought the whole church could hear it. My palms were wet, my mouth dry. But then, something inside me broke free. I stepped forward. The room fell silent. I looked at him, then at her, and finally at the crowd. And I spoke. I told the truth. Every detail. How he had been mine. How she, my mother, had taken him. How I walked in on their secret. How I had been asked to stand here, smiling, while my heart was torn apart. Gasps filled the air. People shifted in their seats. Some covered their mouths, others exchanged horrified looks. My mom's face went pale, her confident smile crumbling. His hand slipped from hers, his eyes darting away in shame. And in that moment, the power was mine. For the first time, I wasn't the invisible girl standing in her mother's shadow. I wasn't the broken girlfriend abandoned for someone else. I was the voice that demanded to be heard. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. After that day, everything changed. The wedding never happened. He left, humiliated. My mom and I didn't speak for months, but I was free. Free from lies, free from betrayal, free to start over, and start over I did. I went back to school, I made new friends. I began to heal. Slowly, painfully, but truly. And I learned something. Betrayal doesn't define you. It breaks you, yes. But it also rebuilds you into someone stronger. So here I am, telling my story. Not as a victim, but as a survivor. Because sometimes the worst endings lead to the best beginnings.